Okay, kids, this is going to be a short video, very introductory about zero product property. Okay, this is different. This is when, well, zero product property works in conjunction with factoring. So what you see here in the front is quadratics that have already been factored. Like, if we distribute, this would be x squared plus x equals 0. But we already have the factored form, which is good. It actually makes it easier. So what you have to do is you just ask yourself, just cover this up for a second. Ask yourself, what value of x here in the parentheses will make the set of parentheses come out to 0? Clearly, -1 plus 1 is 0. So that's one of your answers. And then you can picture covering this up, and that just says x equals 0. So there are your two answers. Notice how, the equation was set equal to 0 to begin with. That's key. So all you're doing is you're asking yourself, how do you make each set of parentheses equal to 0? Well, here, clearly this one has to be -5. This one has to be +13. That's like a no-brainer, right? Because if you plug in 13, 13 minus 13 is 0. I don't even care what this comes out to because 0 times anything would give me 0. It works. Down here, x equals 6. That's easy. Now this one here might take a little bit of thought. But remember, we want that set of parentheses to equal 0. So move the 1 over. Divide by 2. And you get x equals -1/2. That didn't take long to do over here on the right, did it? Now there's a shortcut. It's always, not that this was long, but it's always going to be this over this, change the sign. Okay. But if you forget the shortcut, like again, this over this, change the sign. So this would be x equals +3/5. Now let's say I forgot. Again, I want this set of parentheses to be 0. So I move the 9 over. That's the change the sign business. Then I divide. That's the over business. And I get x equals 9/2. Remember, this over this, change the sign. But if you forget, you just do what we did here. And down here in the bottom, this one, you should try some of this stuff yourself, of course. This middle one, that's the easy one, right? That's going to be x equals -7. This one, if you remember the shortcut, it'll be -3/4. And notice how you have an x in the front. Whenever you have an x in the front, you're going to get an answer, and a third answer of x equals 0. Because 4 times what is 0? Well, 4 times 0 is 0. So on the back side, here we now see the unfactored version. And this is why we spent so much time factoring before, okay? So, notice how it's equal to 0. Now we just you put our factoring skills to use. This is going to be 4 and 3, both plus. Now, we've done factoring, but we're not done with the problem. Okay, now you do what we did in the front. What's going to make this come out to 0? How about this? Bam. Okay. There's no GCF here, so I go to the double parentheses. I'm going to use 5 and 4 here. This tells me the signs are the same. That tells me they're both negative. But remember, that's not my answers. My answers are 5 and 4 because that's what's going to make both of those parentheses come out to 0. No GCF again. I'm going to use 3 and 2. This says signs are different. That one says make the bigger one negative. If you do a factoring check, it is correct. But there we go. And we just got a couple more here, but I do want to talk about them. So don't forget, remember, your first step is always, is there a GCF? And the GCF is 5x. 5x times x would be 5x squared. 5x times 2 would be 10x. And this just gives us answers of 0, because any x in the front is an answer of 0. This is a typo down here, kids. I mean, this is supposed to say x squared, clearly. But you know, what else is different about this problem? I hope you recognize it. Notice that this one's not equal to 0. Well, the reason why it's called zero product property is, your equation's got to be set equal to 0 to solve. So you got that negative 13 over there. We have to move that 13 over, okay? You always have to be equal to 0 before you do this. So x squared plus 9x plus 14 equals 0. There's no GCF. We use 7 and 2. And we get answers of negative 7, x equals negative 2. Don't worry about this thing on the bottom. We actually haven't. What other method have we used to solve equations like the ones above? We actually haven't done another method, but so don't worry about this. There you go.